Hello, hello. So I decided to create this video explaining a little bit, not really go for a specific element, but overall covering or providing some trips on some tips that are like a production based when you're dealing with volumetrics, with emitters, in terms of density. Not yet fire. I might do it in a second video still because at the date of this video created in December 2025. We reach out H21 and it integrates several tools for enhance fire, but this is an academic video really aiming for basic concepts that has been in Houdini since a while. So we're not covering like the ML or the machine learning Pyro Hires, I guess the name of the node, but it's going to be more like some techniques in production. So for this case scenario, I'm gonna start this video no colliders and only talking about the emitter itself. So some things to keep in mind. In this case, I grabbed the relatively brand new capybara, I mean relatively brand new for me, and I want to grade the wrist or the fist and use it as emitter. So some students came with me, or came to me asking for like when it's moving objects. So how should we work with like a moving element or animated elements? So in case if it's not the entire capybara, but only the fist, Italy, this works maybe if you have to do thrusters, example, so you need only the mesh, or you can even use your own mesh constrained to, let's say, the jet, the F-15, or a plane, or the spaceship, or whatever it is, to do your simulation. So be sure that you're gonna work in exclusively with the necessary. If there is mesh or there is something that is not correlated to your simulation, should not be there. Should not even be loaded in memory or whatsoever, because it's going to simply consume more. Yeah, I started with this, which is the static hand, and well, yeah, this guy, it's using for the temps, the form capybara. And why I choose particularly this guy? Because these points, like a compared with a crack, I generally use crack, but here what I like is that the hand is moving. Um, it's moving alone. Is moving alone, and is the point chain, the point position is changing constantly. So let's clarify, the point count is not changing, which is good. If you have something that is point changing like a liquid, that is not really an asset. So mostly of the assets, like in orthodox or traditional canonical pipeline, they will transfer you the assets from animation modeling, and the point count is constant. It should not be like yeah, uneven in between frames. So that will be like something a little bit odd. So I'm gonna have just my fist. Even if I want, because right now this is not that bad, so you have a kind of linear movement. But if I have like a fast moving element doing like I don't know, a spin or a curved trajectory, those are like a little bit more specific. It should be split in or tackle in a different approach. For instance, this is a basic one, and so I have a moving like a up and down, relatively cyclic. I mean, relatively no, is cyclic. So what I'm going to do, so I have those in black. I'm using the current set of sub assets for Pyro, honestly, for purpose of speed. Besides, maybe other tutors or other tutorials has been explaining. I honestly highly encourage you to see how to build from scratch, like at this but I mean these sets, there is some of them that can be like a more minimalistic way. You can like allow I forgot what's the name, Palmy. Yeah, allow editing. No, was that the name? Yeah, match current definition. Allow editing of content. Yeah, but not too much. It's just packing, unpacking, creating some points, or volume scattering. But volume scattering, depending on certain cases, it's preferable. And or if not, if you want to create some noises inside a volume, or you can add noises. Yeah, it's cheaper if you do it from a bunch of points scattered in a volume rather than a surface. There are different approaches for that. So let's start by, I have two different ones. Here I just calling density and the points, because if not, points are simply points. So you see here, there's attribute points. That's it. That's all. Nothing more. But if I create density, I gonna call the attribute density in the points float value, and those are transferred to the scatter. So in this case is if I want to manage, or I'm forced to manage, or I need to manage point creation externally, and from there I'm feeding it into the Pyro source. So is there where this mode keep input, it means it won't change, so it won't touch whatever actually is coming in, because maybe I did something, I don't know, something manual or something different, or something custom is the word that I was looking for. If not, you can use volume scatter or surface scatter. Volume scatter is a little bit expensive, but depending on which cases could be handy. In my personal experience, working with some series for smoke and for fire, surface scatter it's way cheaper. So it's quicker, because keep in mind, and before we jump onto or further discussion, keep in mind that everything it's sort of torrent in a river, and whatever you actually adding on top in the three phases. So the final phase is rendering for sure, but you have previously a sort of optimization and caching, um, where I'm going a little bit by the end to the beginning. Then you have sourcing, and this is the solver. So you're gonna be sourcing, and any decision that you take in the sourcing, what are you are going to be sourcing in the Pyro solver, then taking out, because this is like the exchange. So you are adding everything like an oven. So how much flour, how much sugar, how much I don't know, eggs, whatever you need to place into the oven, then it's going to determine the result. If it's too high in fat, or too high in calories, or too high in carbohydrates. So it's a kind of funny analogy that I'm using with bakery, but works for the purpose, or for this purpose. So here we're going to prepare our bread. Bread is our smoke simulation. This is the oven, and from here to top it's how you're going to prepare your mise en place, or your ingredients to bake your bread. All right. So from here, I need just necessarily. You're not gonna grab 1 kilo. You're gonna grab, if I need a small portions for muffin, I want just my fist. I don't need the entire body. I need only to calculate and to treat the fist. Uh, I have this guy, and I going disconnected first because I want that you figure out with me regarding one thing. A priori, looks fine. I mean, even this guy. So I gonna start crashing my own small setup, but then I going to fix it, and you will see why. Um, Even though seems like, and I didn't figure out that there is already V values. Weird part is that I don't see them here. So looks or seems like they are intrinsic. But anyway, so for instance, I know, because they are calculating here. My bad, my bad, my bad, my bad. Yep, yep. So yeah, they're not determined, so they are calculated here. So the Pyro source is doing a trailing, and they are calculating my points, or they used to. I mean, they're not doing it anymore. It's fine. So let's see that we don't have we're not going to talk about velocity. We're going to return back to velocity anytime soon, but I wish to aim on point here right now is the total amount of points. So here I have 53,515, but then if I start moving, you see that they are starting changing between frames, and that's freaking bad because then no silicon operations are going to go straight to the solution. The problem is that when you're trying to fit this, it's going to be freaking expensive and it's not worth it because per frame it's re-scattering, and not even per frame. If you go sub-stepping, it means like in between frames, it's going to rerun the same process. So it's very, very, very costly for the solver. It's for the reason that we're gonna grab like a T-pose or a rest position and we're gonna plug it here and you see it's highlighted rest position. So what it will change drastically is that when you have your Pyro source, the point count is stable. So it remains like starting from the first frame or starting since the first frame 53,515 and remains all alone. So that's a huge, huge, huge advantage. And try not maybe not sure. I mean, some assets, it's not like a straightforward. These are the kind of things that, okay, Houdini is going to offer you the Pyro source. It's going to offer you, well, this. But this is replicating or mimicking an Alembic import on USD import. Generally are Alembic. Not sure if this is still the case. Um, but the other approaches, those ones come like along the time or come honestly with practice. So one really practical thing in 21 before there's to be like in a kind of other tool, it's here you're gonna set step to maybe 0.01 and integer values, turn it off. But I see that they make it a bottom here real fast and it's taking like an amount of 10, which is quite decent. It's yeah, very, very practical. And here I'm visualizing what is going on in my fist, in my hand, in between frames. If is not the case, because sometimes if you are importing this from Alembic and or if you're not transferring animation, like from rotation translation, not sure if you're following what I'm saying, sometimes the in-betweens are quite linear or not properly arranged, so you're gonna fix them or need to fix them to avoid like a straight lines. Yeah, as an academic, maybe like an academic conversation, academic plane, like for beginners, you're not really familiarized about the problem. But short story, it's if you have something, you're simulating it, and as soon as you run it, you're gonna see like straight lines or artifacts or like a pops in your simulation. Is that what I mean? Let's try do something. I'm gonna grab a default Pyro because the Pyro that I have over there, it's already customized. So I'm gonna grab a custom Pyro in parallel, and oops, cancel, cancel. And I'm gonna grab this guy. I'm gonna bring it just to the side. I don't need this dude for instance. So only thing I need here is this guy and this guy. Okay. So this is a default Pyro source. I'm gonna just grab this guy for visualization purposes. And I need to confess that I deactivate the optimization because I want to see the details. That's not a really good practice. It arrived to freeze your viewport. So pay attention. By default, it's like this. So it's locked at 256. Still, that's gonna be a value depending on your graphic card. I am on a RTX 4070 or 4060, so it's quite robust. It can handle it, but as mentioned, be careful. So in some cases, in some scenarios, you can use it, and some others no. Then let's delete this. So I'm gonna import only density. Do we have density? Leo, do we have density? Yes, we have density. Value of what? It cannot be a 0. So density, Leo, it's a 1. Fine, that works for me. Only thing I don't need skin, p-scale, yeah, rest position. I will let you know why in a moment. But yeah, so let's stick with it and let's hit play. Yeah, something is going on, but we are not sure about what exactly. So you see bounding box is changing, but I don't see nothing in my viewport. So what's going on is that the values are quite low. And if I try visualize it, there you go. There is emulation happening. But so this is one part where the students start feel frustrated because it's like, okay, why have my smoke simulation looking like this, and why is not looking, for example, like this? Da, 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 da. Hold on one sec. I'm gonna let it calculate, not in between frames. This guy eats a lot of resources, so turn it off. And I'm gonna turn off the max visual representation. One trick, as you see, there is memory here. Maybe it's still the same shortcut. Alt Shift M. Yeah, it is. Clear all, then close. So there you're good. You're good because it's not just that it will remove the cache from this solver, but if you have other Pyro solvers and there were like some memory already used, then will remain there. So as you see, I have detailed smoke coming from my fist, and you see a beautiful curve trajectory happening here. So how do we obtain a less this first phase without the necessity or the need to spend in too much? Still, keep in mind that this is very relative and this is not a rule. I will explain you general rules regarding the use of Pyro. First, the first one or the main one, it's depending on the scale that you're simulating. It's not the same parameters or attributes when you're simulating like a human scale body simulation versus a small scale simulation versus an environmental, like a massive, vast fog covering mountains, are not quite the same. It's all about the amount of voxels, the millions of voxels that you're going to have, but they are very relative to the voxel size. So there is a relative correlation from there, and you start negotiating. It's like a measuring, depending on your machine, how performant it is, who is going to give you the best answer of it, a balance between how beautiful the dynamics looks versus how much is going to cost you the frame. Okay, so to be clear on that. Here, so first things first, how I reach out this value. There's not like a straight answer for that. If I grab like a default Pyro source, for my fist, have my fist, it's going to give him something like this. So I could or should not start working with something like this because the problem is that if I fit this into this, or I can use a switch anyway. Why I'm using it this, or why I prefer to use it, because I can use, still the case, don't looks like, yep, it works. Chief R as Robert, help me to switch this. So in that way I can like fit this, and you see it's huge, it's massive. Why is not like this? Because it's sampling way more. So first of all, the p scale value, it's huge, and additionally there is a less amount of points, which makes that if I'm fitting it here, even if I decrease the voxel size crazy, so voxel size here is like the last instruction, I can have 0.005 more or less like here, even lower. Let's go with his just to have fun. And if I hit play, I won't see my details. No, you know what? Even 0.002. I don't mind. Maybe it's going to be a little bit more expensive. So I'm gonna use exactly the same value in the other simulation, but we will see that something awkward is happening. That I see a huge puff, like almost a circle, and it's like okay, it's taking forever to calculate. So you see, it's way more slow. Let's stop it right there. Let's go back some frames. And okay, fine. That's my smoke simulation, and let's compare it with my fist. There you go. It's not even meshing. It has a huge bandwidth. So what is going on here? Um, you need to keep in mind that when you're sampling between points to voxels, and the voxels fitting the Pyro solver, either if you use the subsolver on or if you create your own, depending on how your instructor um, give you the training to like manage an advection. So those principles are very important to do. So creating the DOP network. So in this video I'm not against this approach. Uh, I use the Parasops because I already manage, or more or less manage, because you never finish to learn on to like to tweak to apply like other tricks, other tips in DOPs. And yeah, it's better. Its only thing is that it's faster. All right. So then, for example, if I have a port solver overall sparse, and you start to assemble it here and there, and if you like object smoke object, but I need sparse. Sorry. Anyway, so what I want to come here is that no matter if this is the thing, you're gonna take more time recreating from scratch, but you're gonna learn more. So it's better if you learn this at once, then you are aware how this guy works under the hood. Returning back to this, it's how you're sampling this. So first things first, it's for the reason I decided to go for a lower point count. So particle separation, as well particle scale, can go to 0.02. Let's see. Okay, definitively surface. And yeah, that's good. I don't remember if it was 2 or 1. I guess this guy remained in 1. Let's leave it in 2, what's going to happen afterward. Keep in mind which elements do you need. Do you really need UV? We're not going to use UV, honestly. Um, I don't know. I rather to like get rid of them. I don't need skin, honestly. But I mean, still was not there, was not being fitted. UV less. So yeah, I can get rid of UV to feed my Pyro simulation. Then it changed. It drastically changed because it's sampling. So besides the amount of points, um, it's as well like in these values, which it's matching the one here. Is it really? Is it matching this one? So apparently, but something is odd. Why? Because density, for instance, is fine. Because the particle scale, it's way too high. I guess I found the right value here at 0.01. So let's do it in same fashion. Oh, is there? There you go, there you go. Or maybe you simply need to reset. Yep, that's what I need. Then, there you go. There you go. You have your fist. Yeah, I have my fist, but then, oh, it's popping. So you have, it's popping and it's doing nothing. So smoke by itself, in this case, the simulation is feeding. What is going on? Per each frame, it's adding 1 cup of fluor. So first frame, 1 cup of fluor. Second frame, second cup of fluor. Third frame, third cup of fluor. And it's gonna be keeping adding cups of fluor to the oven. This is like a way away from reality, but I don't mind. It's like simply to keep it dynamic. So what's going on between this guy and the other one? So first thing to check if you are having like this kind of stepping, because general clients say like, ooh, it's a stepping, and they don't like stepping. It's check in a decimal value that you have a beautiful interpolation. If you don't have an interpolation, you can time blend this with this guy. If X is already, you can like simply clamp on both ends and use FF. And if not, I guess it's still called the time blend. Yeah. Therefore, I guess this guy, okay, is a little bit more robust, is going to be the one responsible for the interpolation. So um, that's one thing, interpolation. And second, if you have interpolation, then you should not feel worried about, because that same interpolation will happen at this level. It means that vertebrae in between frames, it will be fitting. Only thing that then voxels will change of position. Be sure of that. You see that it changed when I release the alt. That's for optimization. So let's come here to black, and you see that, for example, voxels are not quite the same, because voxels are an optical illusion. Voxels, you believe they are moving. No, the box, the domain is the one in the red boundaries, and inside, in that boundary, I having a bunch of blocks, so a huge amount of blocks. So these guys per sides are divided per the amount of voxels that we have here. So it's a huge, massive rack. And what it is doing is finding if there is a point based on the particle size or particle scale, and in that particle scale, it's within the boundaries of that voxel. It's saying this voxel is active, this voxel has density. If it's outside, it will say, I have no data, I'm empty. Okay, but if he's moving in the space, he's not really moving. The hand is moving because the points are changing their position. The voxels are doing the process of activating, desactivating, activating, desactivating. So in one, maybe here, this part is activated, but here, sorry, here this part is activated and this part now is deactivated, and that's what actually will come into the solver, and the solver will start like a reading, activating, deactivating, activating, deactivating, and between those values is like a between, okay, density of 1. If it's doing dissipation, it's gonna start like subtracting value of density. So I have 1 cup of fluor, then I'm gonna remove a spoon in each frame, so that to be clear on density. That happens with all fields. Temperature as well, only thing that is going to use their own like a custom algorithms for buoyancy and other parameters. But at the end of the day, like I'm not talking about mm, like the real phenomenon, but I mean I'm talking more like the mechanical phenomenon about how Houdini or a Pyro or a spare solver works is more or less in that way. Okay, so that being said, quick thing or quick way to do it, it's adding substeps. So you have 2 ways. Min and max substeps are cheaper. Global substeps are freaking expensive, and try to use spares. Let's try maybe forcing a 10 substeps and a minimum of 5. Who or what are going to determine which is the right value? Performance. Because right now I went crazy with these values because I don't have a collider feeding the simulation. If I have a collider, then maybe the solver will take way more time to calculate rather than could arrive to take, for example, if I have no collision. So right now, by experience, I know that when I don't have collision, it's better than when I have one feeding the smoke simulation. So keep that in mind, between other things. But for instance, the cheaper Pyro simulation for the academic purposes of this video, we're dealing with density alone. I will add only speed right now, just to break up this, because you can have a huge amount or a considerable amount of substeps, but still I see like a ghost. And this is a quite common artifact. Overall, if you're working with really fast moving objects, that's a nightmare. So you will need to try to handle the blending between the steps to avoid these kind of artifacts, called artifacts, if the supervisor call it artifacts, with velocities. So either inherent velocity, you create your custom velocity, noise with the velocity, and noising or add some noise in the values of the density and how you're going to fit them. I'm gonna jump straight. Okay, another thing. The bounding box, the boundaries are freaking huge. So you have to negotiate. Like more or less when you check a photo, you're gonna have to negotiate between like the when you take a photo, you negotiate with the amount of light, so the f-stop, the diaphragma, and or the ISO of the camera lens. If you're familiarized with photography or you manage the language of photography, you may know what it means. In this case, it's the same thing. If I reduce the amount of the resizing, I go and concentrate more the computation to this side. Besides, if there is a drastic or aggressive change in between frames, that won't be a suitable solution. So you're gonna be forced to increase the resizing. So if I test now, you see that it's going faster. Another thing that I want to mention is try a best possible way to use the shortest amount of space on your bounding box. Right now we have something extraordinarily fast and very efficient because he's going in one axis direction. But what if I create a havoc and you receive an animation of a trailer that is falling to the side and sliding and is going in like a diagonal direction. So let's say that right now my capybara is walking in that direction. So what will cost is that right now this will be growing not just in one axis, but also, so not just in like a, we could call it like a, in X axis, but in Z axis as well. And that's not recommendable because the, well, you see, uh, when starting to, if it's starting like to increase the simulation for your trail, it will increase as well the amount of voxels active in your bounding box. So let's say that at this null, I will be required to, I'm going to deactivate this guy, and I will be required that this is like a, ignoring that is like an out anim, but let's say here or in this way is how actually animation came from the other department. This is only to see the hand. So I will do exactly the same thing. Keep in mind that you're allowed to transform whatever you receive here, but you need to return it back as it was before. Fine. So I know that I already turned it on 45 degrees, but some other occasions you will need to do it by hand or by eye. And let's see if you have a straight like a straight trajectory, straight or like a more efficient animation, doing your own hand animation, or not really hand animation, or maybe simply like having a fixed value here. This dude, the advantage is that you can create a reference here. And this reference copy, I mean, these two guys definitively they are different, and I can use them. This is going to call rot body, and I can say rot reverse body. So I can take it from here and add it once the simulation come out. And in theory, only thing is that I will unlock. Sorry, not that guy, but this guy. No, this guy. No, pardon me. This guy. Control Shift, click, and I break the constraint, and it will return back to normal. It means that if I visualize the animation that came like from the original department or from animation for the assets, and I check how my smoke simulation is going on, both are going to match. Only difference that you see that the bounding box is no longer growing in two axes, it's growing only in one single axis. So that's a production tip in that regard. So you're going to save memory and computational power, more dedicated for the detail of your Pyro simulation or the Pyro simulation, rather than huge bounding box growing in different axes. So this right now, because this guy is moving like in the same altitude or the same height, but what if it's a missile? that arrives to be in exactly the same fashion. Fine. That's regarding that tip. Right now it's moving a little bit slow because it's loading in phantom mode, this guy, but we can return back to our normal procedure here. Um, Now, let's talk about noise and rest position. There is one thing regarding the noise. I can noise the guy for wedge purposes, mainly because it helps to blend, but something is going to happen. If I blend it using, there we go, and right now it looks a little bit odd, even if it's, well, yeah, it's float, I know. I have my value here, and additionally, this guy was computed not with the rest position, so the point count was changing. Maybe for a fist it's not that bad, but it saves time because what it does internally is it grabs the same scatter, so it scatter once, then it start to point transform. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Here. It use a point deform over the transform, so the points are being only translating in between frames instead of having a point scatter creating points each single subframe, which is a little bit more expensive. From here, I'm gonna use a more accurate amount of scale, maybe like that, more or less. And let me see which values I had in the other one, because okay, I reduce it even lower, just for the good sake of having enough amount of details to later on sample into the smoke. So another thing is that you have your hand here and you believe that it's moving the noise, but the more, okay, even I can keep a noise static. Actually, this noise is static, I guess. Yeah, you see, there is no animation, but the fractal is changing. What is going on here? So I should have a noise if I freeze this guy to the one frame, and if I move in this should be static, but it's changing per frame. So the problem is that the noise is using p-value, but as p-value is changing per subframe, it's going to start flickering, and as it's flickering, the noise is not going to be constant. So for that reason, gladly this guy, as soon as we plug it here, it will create a rest position. So rest position is the one to be used when you are working with moving emitters to control your noise. Why? Because even if I don't animate my noise, you can even from there like try to break the pattern of your noise, but at least at this stage it's gonna be better. Or you can animate it really, really subtle, but really, really subtle. Pulse duration maybe 0.1. I will change. So if I return back here this guy, I can analyze, and I strongly recommend you do this when you are working with your noises. No, 0.25, and this is the opposite. Lower the higher is the case. Yes, higher the value, slower the animation. Let's leave it like that, and this works for me. So let's unplug it, and now I have controlled my noise. So that took me a time to figure out that that was the main issue, where it was like a weird flickering, and they were saying me like slower and then slower and slower, and even the noise was static, and the artifact was still present in my simulations, and it was like up the point count. Then if I see now, it should be different. Let's see it here with this. And let's remove the phantom. Try avoid the phantom. It eats resources um, from your viewport. Right now it's clamping because it has an optimization applied. I know it's not there. So it is because I deactivated. Yeah, I deactivated. Doop, doop. Let's refresh. And as well, maybe, oh yeah, it's there. So why I'm seeing it differently than here? Ah, never mind. What I add here, self-fill condition. I like to add a single projection. If you are like a 100% sure, you can use double projection. That's not like on my end a tip from great master Savers Lassie Rebel Way. Strong recommend these tutorials. So that's something that come from there. Yeah, it's good. It's simply adding fluid, adding fluid, adding fluid, adding fluid, but still like a not really smoke. So not yet on temperature, or yeah, I'm gonna quickly jump onto that phase, and that will be well, wait, it's on 0.02 and this is on 0.05. It should match. So you see, you're gonna have way more material. If you want to use with lower values, you can. Only thing is that it's gonna be like an overkill, but keep it slight low. Maybe as like a slight value of this will help, because it doesn't matter if you have like a high resolution emitter versus a slightly lower resolution configuration for your Pyro solver. But if it's the opposite, then no. It means if you have a higher voxel size here happening, you can killing yourself increasing the voxel size of the Pyro simulation solver, and it won't work. It won't gather you more resolution. Instead, if I have more resolution here, as soon as it's going to fit inside the solver is going to clamp or to resample it to the values that it has like assigned. And as I am getting a little bit bored, but I mean not really bored, literally, I'm going to simply copy paste this setup. It's grabbing the sorry, the what? It's grabbing the inertia because it's calculating the point count here, the v point, so the velocity. I don't see it right there, honestly. Not sure why. Um, Maybe because I need to activate the trail. So the trail is computing the velocity, and right now I should see the points with some yellow trails that you are. And those trails I negotiate with them because they are too, depending of the simulation, how shit is looking, too strong, so I decrease it. Or you can actually increase the amount of samples here, or the scale, depending on the backwards, if you want, which kind of force you want to use. That prevents sometimes, but in volumes not too much, when particles sometimes help to create like initial simulation. If you overall, if you have the emitter in front of your camera and you see the particles or the debris starting the first frame, then forward difference works better, or central difference, and you can calculate acceleration, and it's for motion blur, it's a better approach, but this is for particles, not for volumes. So we're gonna stick with that one by default. And well, first frame won't be that much, but as soon as I start like I'm moving the other the other frames, it's gonna be something better. Only that I will turn off on density because it's overkilling the viewport. And there you go. Let's visualize it there. And there is another way as well. You can constrain the camera because sometimes it's annoying, like us moving back and forward. So a trick is you obtain from your camera, if you have an animation, it's not really the case. No, I'm lying. You can obtain like a centroid of this guy from the animation. You can use a centroid formula, and you constrain that to a witness camera. So in that way, the camera it's constrained to the hand, and in that way you can debug when it's in motion. Other alternative, it's that you temporarily bring your guy to the center just for debugging purposes. And you come here and legacy presets, move to region. There you go. So I can visualize without have to move in a camera. So yeah, I guess this is a faster a faster solution. If you want to see it in movement, then you can use a camera and constrain it if you want. In my case, for example, this is a little bit too much. I can either reduce alpha or reduce the length. Only confusion part if it's the length of the fill or the length of the trail for visualization. The one which actually gives you the best answer, it's once you have it inside the Pyro and how actually it's looking. So we have our velocity. We need to feed it because right now it's not being feeding it. So I have point and there you go, there you go, there you go. And the attribute I need that is vel. I'm gonna call it vel, and I can add it as velocity. So one other thing, we're not using colliders, for instance, but it's like a grabbing anything, like a, for example, born flame by default. You're not doing flames right now, and you have V, but I call it vel, not V. So to make it work, I need to switch the name to like a gather it as a vel straight. Fields, it's fine, but I don't have flame, so I don't need to use that one. And what else? I'm gonna take care about that later. This one as well. This one is faster, but BFECC is the best one. So as soon as like if it's working right now, and this is like a default clamp. Now for where you load is fine. So those two values are better. Da, 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 da. This is new, but cool. This is for visualization, but yeah, we're good. So temperature is not fitting in it there. Besides, you can use density. You can plug. It's like a you can have your own temperature, or you can use default field, and you can plug it into two different fields in the solver. That being said, will help you to maybe sometimes save computation. If it's a generic element, not really that urgent or chaotic or critical, will be better. If not, and wait a minute, velocity, yeah, is there. Vel, oh, what happened? Yep, let me see. Let me see, let me see, let me see. Maybe because there is. Okay, it's there and it's freaking strong, but it's there. Okay, as you may see right now, there is a lot of details already on my simulation, and well, right now I'm losing myself because it's a fast graphic card, but I see right now I reach already a decent level only in viewport. So I wish to run like maybe a couple of frames, small like simulation, because definitively I will need to do something with this part, and or I don't know, maybe because this got decreased, or I need to increase on the other values, blah blah blah, to obtain it like in the other way. So yeah, that it is. Am I skipping or missing something? Not really. Let me just compare last time with this guy. Well, because I had also it's a 0.02, and this is on 0.002 as well, 5 and 10. Yeah, maybe because I switch it to the heaviest one. Control Shift. Where were the revert default values? Is revert. Okay, the one is faster, but still I have like some clamping happening in the beginning of my simulation, so it should be other words in other way, or I can simply like add this to it as noise and simply adding that and see what's gonna happen. But overall speaking, that's the main way with some of these tips that I hope they're going useful. So right now it's working on both. It's temperature taking place, and it's creating some mushrooms. So for that, increasing values. For I'm curious to have like a wispy simulation only like around my fist. Not sure, maybe a warrior, a Dragon Ball, a Goku, I don't know, holding or like emitting steam from the fist maybe. And like a first, as a first try, I have already like something good looking. I can like start diving with some divergence and or dissipation and or um, some noises, but you see only with the advection system. If it's require density, keep in mind you can actually play as well with the amount of temperature. I will go and try to break up a little bit more this, and I need to compare with capybara. Remember that maybe it's for this reason that it was actually, or it is actually, um, taking a little bit more time because it's doing the rotation. So Italy, if you have it baked, so we know that for sure that the animation won't change. So you can extract it, and from there you can extract it and bake it or cache it, then call it back. Uh, Before killing yourself, the head, or like a, yeah, break the head. Keep in mind that this may look a step in the viewport, but you need to check it if you're going to render with motion blur. Motion blur is expensive for volumes because you require the fill field. So see if it's worth it or not to have it on, or you can do it in other ways, right? But right now it's good looking. So I see like at the details at this level. The only thing is that I will need to leave it caching, or simply like add the optimizer, deactivate this, and switch back and forth, and maybe will decrease a little bit, maybe. But still will keep like calculating. But there you are. So this was more or less a quick way to review basic details. So as mentioned, it's all about the scale that you have on your character, your emitter, what else? Your yeah, what kind of element you are required to simulate, and from there, yeah, you take the decision or the decisions to optimize your simulation. So I guess next steps um, will be to optimize this. So let's say that you're gonna send this to cache. I strongly recommend you that you do it on VDB. So there is different approaches, not major performance distinctions like between one or the other. This guy LS, I know that it's following a really nice trail and it's dissipating, so the bounding box won't keep like a, you know, growing and growing and growing. From there, let's kill it, and I will go and inspect, and this is right now giving me Houdini volumes. So Italy, we're gonna export it as and cache it as VDBs. Pros and cons. So main thing is that Houdini volume you can afterwards do some post process, reuse it in certain ways. VDVs, depending, for example, well, if the field doesn't exist, it won't be called. So as you see, I don't have flame, for example, temperature for this. In this case, I don't really need it. Flame, I'm not working with flame, and I don't have a color and color it volume. Actually, if you want to color it, you can do it some process ramping. That's relatively cheaper. So depending on what you're working on, how the element it's relevant to have color. And I encourage color because it gives a little bit more of realistic behavior. If not, if you want to grab color and or cold color because maybe it's an explosion and desert explosion or a missile explosion, you're gonna need some different shades of gray and or yellow and or brown for the impact and or for the combustion. So definitively you will need color. In that case, convert to VDV, use 16-bit float. um, what else? You don't really need resample. Yeah, a little bit maybe. Uh, Sometimes works, sometimes not. If it's too close to camera, you're gonna deactivate it. If it's a little bit far, you don't need a strong vel field uh, overall for fire when it's a related motion blur. But if it's fast moving object, this helps out to smooth some details or to obtain a smoke richer. So that's a decision that you do like after like a first mid-res render. You check it on Nuke and you take the decision, because definitely if you're going to do it with motion blur, that will increase your render time per frame. If you deactivate it and you don't render with motion blur and you try to trick it depending the angle, the camera, and the position on Nuke using some 2D distortion or some maps. So there's different techniques to like use U and V channels on Nuke to create motion blur. Then that will be a better way. If not, you can use it like by brute force. It's gonna be better, and there you are. Well, I have still my memory, my cache in memory. If I activate it, it won't destroy it, but if I do middle click, it's no longer Houdini volume. It says here appears as VDV, density, and vel. That's it, that's all. And you see here the voxel size change. So it was for density 0.002, for velocity 004, which is cheaper. And yeah, the instance memory is quite decent. And there is active, and as you see here, okay, that's one other thing. When you do the val field, it's overall is not based on the density per se. So it's for the reason that you have way more voxels active than voxels used for velocity, and that's honestly not really good. Let me see if this is a new option. If not, I'm gonna show you a technique. Yeah, it does it. So cool volumes when activated like a val. I hope that it does what I believe it does. Yeah, it does what I believe it does. So it will mask the value, and you see that from 1.6 millions, it reduced to this amount. So it will consider only the val that exists based on the active voxels that we have right now. That being said, it's worth it or not to resample if we are calling the val field based on those values. Or you can call it, but resize it maybe to, can I do this? Yes. So yeah, you get like a more or less decent value. And this is gonna be way more optimal. Before that used to be like a some processes. So this is because you just click here really quick, but used to be a process that must to be manual or built or pre-built using VDV activators, old school, you know. Yeah, this guy, to repeat the same, exactly the same process. But to make it shorter, yeah, simply activate that option and it's gonna be fine. Cool. That's it for now, for today. I hope this was quite useful. Sorry that maybe was a little bit long. Any inquiries, any questions, write me a comment, an email, a message. Certainly I will be able to help you out to solve it. So yeah, feel free to ask. Thanks so much. Here is Leo, wishing you a wonderful end of day. Bye for now.